Reserve Deputy Bates did not commit a crime. Reserve Deputy Bates was a victim, a true victim.
On April 2nd, 2015, a single shot on a North Tulsa street ended the life of one man and the careers of several others. That was the day the paths of Robert Bates and Eric Harris crossed. Bates, a 73-year-old reserve deputy with the Tulsa County Sheriff's Office, was allowed to serve with the agency's undercover drug task force, despite lacking the training to do so. Harris, a 44-year-old ex-convict who couldn't shake his drug addiction, sold a gun to an undercover deputy during a sting operation. Harris's shooting death created ripple effects throughout the city and the county. Citizen outrage led to protests and a grand jury, which indicted the once popular 7-term sheriff. The public was told that Harris's shooting was a simple accident, that Bates mixed up his gun and his taser. The sheriff's office also said that Bates was the true victim in this case. But an investigation by the Frontier suggests another explanation. While serving with the drug task force, Bates displayed increasingly reckless behavior that went unchecked by his friend, the sheriff. As some within the department had feared, Bates' apparent recklessness, combined with a lack of training and oversight, proved to be a deadly combination.
What I do?
Everything.
Come over here.
Sheriff's office, search warrant! I am.
Huh?
We got a small hallway with a bathroom and just a little to the left. Take what you need upstairs. We're going to hold a big area here. Sheriff's office, search warrant! What are you moaning about? What's hurting?
Huh?
What's hurting?
I carry the equipment that the deputies use to clear a scene, whatever. I've been involved in several hundred of these. I do clean up when they're done. I take notes. I take photographs.
In one section of the report, it alleges that in 2009, your client was actually pulling over vehicles on the road when he wasn't trained or authorized to do so. When a sergeant approached him about it, he responded, according to this report, quote, "Well, I can do it, and if you don't like it, you can talk to Chief Deputy Tim Albin or Sheriff Glanz, because I'm going to do it." Does your client admit saying that?
No.
Was he, in fact, pulling over vehicles on his own?
No, nor did the investigation conclude that.
It's 12:41 hours. Switch to B. Go ahead. Who you be? I need your numbers and your card number, and what are you doing?
Am I doing? It's Robert 629. The car number hasn't been assigned yet.
Okay, I need your man number and handheld radio, and what assignment are you working today?
Working west. Why are you asking?
Because nobody informed me you was here.
Went to squad meeting this morning. Corporal Organ assigned me west.
Well, nobody gave me any information, so I need your man number and handheld also.
While some supervisors complained that Bates wasn't properly trained and most of his training records were later found to be missing, he was still free to work with the drug task force.
I need to roll on your stomach. Now. Yeah. I'm sorry. Oh, shit. Oh, shit, man, he shot it. He got it. Oh, God, he shot it. Stop fighting. Oh, what the fuck? motherfucker, get out of here. He shot me! He shot me! You mad, motherfucker, you hear me? You're fucking mad, bro! Fuck up! Oh, God! Oh, he shot me, I didn't do shit! He shot me, man! Oh, my God! You didn't do shit?
Bates was charged with second-degree manslaughter and whisked through the jail in record time. The sheriff publicly defended his friend and former campaign manager, as well as the gifts he and other reserves had given to the sheriff's office. On the day Harris was shot, the deputies were told he was a dangerous felon, a badass who wouldn't hesitate to use violence. But very little in Harris's background supported that notion. He had struggled with addiction, but he was known as a friendly cut-up who adored his sons and other relatives. With the sheriff's office pushing back and video of the shooting still unreleased, community anger began to build.
You tell a lie long enough, it becomes the truth. So then you convince those people who live in the community that it's the truth. And that community begins to think that they deserve this. Maybe we've done something wrong. Maybe this is supposed to be our condition. We become conditioned to that idea. So people don't want to be participating in any ideas or reasoning that you may have to go out and fight the system.
The sheriff's office relented, releasing the video of Bates shooting Harris. But the agency also paid to hire an expert from the Tulsa Police Department. He tried to explain how Bates could have accidentally shot Harris.
Reserve Deputy Bates did not commit a crime. Reserve Deputy Bates was a victim, a true victim of slips and capture.
Well, obviously, he is very upset about what happened. He feels badly.
He was devastated, all right? He was absolutely rocked and devastated.
First and foremost, let me apologize to the family of Eric Harris. You know, this is the second worst thing that's ever happened to me, or first.
Release of the video increased media attention, especially after reports that Bates' training records were falsified. Well, this is something we started hearing, Lawrence, like one day after the shooting. Multiple sources had called us. They were afraid to speak with their names, but they had said that the training records for Deputy Bates were not accurate, that he was not taking the training that he was recorded to have taken, that supervisors who expressed concern, who refused to sign off, were transferred. This happened with the field training that they do with other officers. This also happened with the firearms certification training, according to our sources. Supervisors were told to sign off on the training, that he had not done the required number of hours, and they refused and were transferred, not necessarily disciplined, but transferred to less desirable assignments. We do know that during that time, and a year or two before that, and at that time he had given the Undercover Unit 5 automobiles, donated those automobiles to the unit, as well as surveillance equipment.
Ziva mentions that she'd heard it the day after or 2 days after the shooting. I have been hearing from our sources over the last 12 to 18 months that Mr. Bates had been wielding his weapon at times unnecessarily on the streets of Tulsa, and that there were good officers, good deputies at the sheriff's office that were genuinely concerned about the situation.
Was there an internal affairs investigation into that issue a couple years ago?
There was an investigation that occurred under Sheriff Edwards.
And what was the outcome of that?
I'm not sure. I believe that they found that there was no special treatment.
But it was involving Bates' records?
Yes.
Just days after it was formed, The Frontier was the first media outlet in the nation to report details of a 2009 internal investigation into Reserve Deputy Bates' training. The report concluded Bates had received favorable treatment, and top officials intimidated supervisors who wouldn't go along. While the sheriff acknowledged the existence of the internal report about Bates, days later, his spokesman Terry Simonson said the sheriff never held the report in his hand.
The best we can tell with this 2009 report is that there was at least 2 copies of it. One that an employee had, whom at this point they still don't know who it is, and is probably the person that decided to give it to the media. And one that was in a file in a box in the basement. The first time the sheriff was aware of the report is when the press had the report and began asking him questions about it. The question people never ask the sheriff is, and it's interesting when you watch people interview him, they always stop short of asking the real question. And the real question should have been, Sheriff, when did you have the 2009 report in your hand? And he would have said Friday. Last Friday was the first time he had a chance to get it and read it and go through it himself.
Do you feel like
there must be something else at work here, the timing of his death and the scrutiny that's come with it, to bring a light to what's going on with police brutality and some of these cases.
First of all, I would like to say again, this doesn't have anything to do with race.
Yeah.
These are some evil people that did an evil deed and been doing it for a long time.
As the year drew to a close and a new year began, turmoil at the sheriff's office continued, with more revelations of misspending and a lack of oversight. Meanwhile, former Sheriff Glanz and his longtime friend Robert Bates waged their battles in courtrooms. The Harris family continued hoping for justice.